United Shades of Gray, Conversations of Race in America on WSGW. Now, here is your host, Kareem Bowen.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of United Shades of Gray, Conversations of Race in America. Today, we're going to be talking about defining moments in our lives. Those moments that happen, that occur, that change the way you view things, change the way you operate, and may change your future course. Well, today in the studio, if you're listening, we have with us two amazing people. First of all, I got to bring in my main man, Mark Bassett. He is the co-host of United Shades of Gray. Mark, what's good?
How's it going today, Kareem?
How's it going today?
Yeah.
All right. And if you're out there looking, he's got a cactus and looks like pineapple shirt on today, which I absolutely love. It's nice. Mark, where'd you get those new digs?
I got these. Well, they're not new. They're about a year old. I got them in Palm Springs last year.
You know, when you buy quality, they still look new a year later. So Mark, we thank you for being here today. And then also we have our producer, John B, in the place to be. What's good, John?
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello. And there's one additional lovely lady to our fold, and it is Yvonne Daniels, your afternoon girlfriend, over here on WSGW from KISS WTLZ 107.1 FM. Yvonne, give a shout out.
Good afternoon. So glad to be here on a Friday.
On a Friday. And she said that with a smile. All right. So we're in the studio, and I have a young man that is here with us on today. First time he's here, he wanted to come in and be a part of the stream, the process with us on today. He's like 9 feet tall, going into ninth grade. He's gonna have to bend over just a little bit. So those of you out there in social media land, that's the camera right there. Give a shout out to those individuals. How you doing today, Tayshawn?
Good.
You got to come a little bit closer.
I'm doing good.
Why did you want to come today? What interested you?
I wanted to come to support Kareem.
Okay, just to support him.
Yeah.
He needs all the support he could get. So.
I need support. I don't get enough of it. Thank you, Tayshawn, my main man. Thank you, Mark. If looks could kill. All right, so we are here today. We're going to talk about defining moments. Before we do that, there is this big situation that I like to throw out there because, Mark, during the entire situation, we haven't really talked about it at the very beginning, but we never said much about this whole thing. And I'm talking about the trial of the decade, not the Diddy trial, the Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, Call Me Love, Bad Boy, for real entertainment. The trial that went on. And as I was watching the trial, Mark, I was just kind of like, okay. I unashamedly, yes.
Okay.
I tried to say no. I watched pieces of it, so I would get the recap. Nobody watched it because it wasn't televised, right? But I did, watch and get, the cast view of it. I watched what they were talking about with Charlemagne on the Breakfast Club, and just reels and things of that nature. And as I was watching, I was like, okay, when are they going to get to the big case? The big case. When is it going to happen?
The Rico case.
Yes.
Okay.
Which wasn't really Rico.
Yeah. It was more like Costa Rica. No, I don't know. But it was not what we thought it was going to be. So he got off the major charges that they were having. And I think the world knows that he's a jerk, and he's probably a little bit weird in terms of the things that he likes.
A little bit.
Maybe not so weird, depending on what you like to do with baby lotion, baby oil, but I don't know.
He kept them afloat, man. Literally.
Wow.
Now we understand why Johnson & Johnson is never going to go away. So weird, but nothing that amounts to what we expected. What are your thoughts, Mark?
I guess I'm not surprised. I mean, I think a lot of legal experts from the very beginning thought that this was going to be a difficult, Rico conviction was going to be a difficult conviction. And so that turned out to be the case. He was convicted of a couple less serious crimes, depending on your perspective on them. But yeah, I mean, it's not a huge surprise to me, I guess.
Okay, so there was all of this conversation about, wait till they begin to drop names and the testimonies and the stories that come out. But I don't think that there was ever pressure for him to even have to do anything like that.
Yeah.
So Yvonne, since you are, brand director, the one who's in charge of the urban station, I'm just curious, does Diddy have the ability to make a comeback from this? Do you think we'll see him again?
I think he's going to lay low for a minute. Well, he's going to serve his time first, which I don't think will be a lot of time. By the time he gets convicted, or his sentence,
Do
they
you
give
don't
him
think
a
it'll be
sentence,
time served by chance?
I think so, because he
Okay.
will have been in there for a year. So I think he'll, he may,
The sentence, what's the maximum sentence? Isn't it 10 years or 5
for
years?
each count.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
20 total.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think he'll serve maybe 2-3 years.
I mean, with no real prior.
So the fact that they did not give him bail, right?
Right.
So there is a concern that in his camp, I think that they're going to give him pretty stiff sentences.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, so they're due to sentence him October 3rd.
Okay.
So just this week they were trying to, because he wants to go home.
Not till October 3rd.
October 3rd is when the sentence is
That's a
coming
long
down.
time to wait for.
Yeah. So he was like, "Can we move it up?" And they were like, "Absolutely not."
Yeah.
So
Well, I think
yeah.
that people, even though he was not found guilty, I think
Mhm.
there's a lot of people that say,
Well, wait a minute. He was found guilty.
I mean, we're talking of the
Yeah.
most heinous.
Right.
Yes, he is guilty. He's
Prostitution.
guilty of being a Class A jerk. He's
Yeah.
guilty of
Yeah.
beating up women and
Mhm.
and being a prevert, right?
Yeah.
But but in terms of the highest crimes, he wasn't found
Right.
guilty. I think a lot of people still feel that. What do you think the influence of money? What was the influence money played in this at all? Any at all?
I think that, but I think that he was not convicted of more serious charges because he paid with everything in cash. So they could not, they didn't have receipts.
Yeah.
I think had they had receipts, it would have
Yeah.
been a stronger case.
Yeah.
I do think he does have a lot of people in his back pocket. And I think that's why you didn't see a lot of, names and all. People like, no. So, and that's why he has not been convicted up to this point. That's why it took so long for
Yeah.
all this stuff to
Yeah.
come,
Yeah.
to light. So.
I mean, I've seen a couple of documentaries, and who knows with the documentary, but basically he's been able to get out of some pretty sticky
Really
situations
sticky.
Very.
with probably kind of influence peddling and things like
Mhm.
that.
I mean,
So,
if you look at, they're saying that he beat a couple murder raps. They're saying
Yeah.
that he was heavily involved with the situation with Shine the rapper.
Yeah.
And then also, we're still trying to figure out who killed Roger Rabbit with Biggie Smalls, you
Yeah.
know. So
And a Heavy D.
and Heavy D,
Yeah.
and then
Kim
also
Porter.
yeah, Kim Porter,
Mhm.
and then what's the other guy? You better get up on your own. I'll be sure.
I'll be sure.
So there's a lot of
Yeah.
things going on. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But you say that you think he'll lay low and he'll come back. I think he's done.
I think he's O.J. Simpson, basically.
Yeah.
He's not going to come back like but I do think that he because he still has supporters, just like with R. Kelly.
I mean, people sang and danced after the victory, after the verdict.
They
They
did.
celebrated. Yes.
Whether he can have a real position of
He definitely won't be like
Yeah.
he was before all this
Absolutely.
happened. You know what I'm saying? But I think that he still will be able to move, somewhat.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I'm not particularly excited about it either
Yeah.
way. The best years of Bad Boy are far behind us,
Mhm.
and I think that people are kind of screaming. I think that there's going to be a number of other lawsuits that come
Mm,
that are going to be strictly civil.
Yeah.
mhm.
Strictly civil lawsuits, and it'll be that they'll be coming after his money.
Yeah.
So we are looking at, as we look at this, in this case, we thought this to be one of those cases that would be a defining moment in popular or hip hop culture. That one fizzled out like the
Mhm.
worst firecracker on the 4th of July. But we do see a number of things that have happened in life. And as I was planning this conversation, I was thinking about kind of looking back at different things. And somebody asked me the question on last week, like, what was the thing that really motivated you to kind of operate and do the things that you're doing? And I kind of thought about it. I'm like, was there one thing? What is the catalyst if we were to just ask a really quick question, when we talk about defining moments, and I ask you to give me one word that comes to mind, all three of you in the room, what would you say? You first, Yvonne.
Just a word.
One word.
And I didn't even realize it at this time, but just determination.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about you, Mark?
realization.
Realization.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
You're gonna
good.
make me stick to one word. Realization.
That's a good word. That's a good word. And Jonathan,
I don't have just one word.
you got to pick one word. Okay. The rules of the game are pick one word that you think of that comes to mind when you think defining moments.
It's hyphenated, so it counts.
Okay.
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 Self-control.
Wow. That's
Okay. We'll give you one
We
word on
need to
that.
explore that at some point. So, but keep going, Kareem.
Okay. And the word that comes to mind for me is change. It's the first word that comes to mind.
Mhm.
And I think it's because when we think about having a defining moment in our lives, many times it will cause us to bring these thoughts into mind. And I want
It's
to.
interesting you should, because my thing is
I was coming to you, Mark. Go ahead.
For me, it was a realization of something.
Yes.
And I've had lots of defining moments in my life when you're going on 65, but the realization of something led to me to want to change something. And so it kind of, your word is very synonymous with me for my realization, led to a change.
And I thought about you, Mark, because I said, this is going to be an interesting conversation with Mark, because as we look at things and where you are in life, there are a lot of things that you're redefining because you had a major defining moment in your life. And I don't want to jump all the way into it, but I just thought this would be a great opportunity. But I also thought about our guest here, Yvonne, as well, who is always redefining. There was a very big moment that happened in your life that has also made some changes. I want to start this conversation from a personal level. So let's allow our audience to really get to know who we are. But when we talk about personal defining moments, do we have, what are the personal, any one moment personally? And Yvonne, I think that you probably have the most poignant one that may stand out for most people, or for you. I don't know if you feel like sharing or not. Where are you at?
Well, if it's the one that I think you're talking about that just happened recently,
yes,
that has caused transition. I did recently lose my husband, or my husband passed away December of last year. So that has caused me to have to really rethink some things. We have a 13-year-old son and just transition. But even before that, when I take it back to, I've been in radio for over 30 years now.
Wow.
And as a Black woman, when I take it back to, I've moved around a lot.
Yes.
And I remember when I was at my second radio job, I wanted to learn how to program the music. I was at an AC station. I was the only Black person that was full-time there. So I had a lot of white men that, and I needed them to teach me, and I was not wanting to learn it to get into this position. I just wanted to learn it because I was like, this is just, they wouldn't. And so that was one of the best companies I've ever worked for. But I said, I cannot stay here because they will not allow me to do what I needed to do, to do. Move somewhere else. And the person there at the next place willingly taught me, which actually led to me. That was the reason I was able to get this job, because I knew what I didn't even know I really needed to know how to do. But I was determined and was willing to let some things go that really were comfortable in my life, to say, I can't do this. I've got to be determined and move, so.
All right.
Yeah.
Mark, share.
Just picking, I mean, again, as I said, I have lots of defining moments, but the one that always jumps to the forefront for me is, I credit to my oldest daughter, Kristen. Kristen listens occasionally. So if you're out there, Kristen,
shout out to
Kristen, educating me as a parent. So I'll always remember, it was, I think, her junior or senior year at Dow High. And it was back in the day when you would get a report card in the mail as a parent.
That was way back.
Yeah.
Way back then. And we came in and she had 5 A's and a B. And I remember she was in her bathroom. The door was open. So I walked in with the report card and I said, hey, Kristen, got the report card. And I said, really nice job on this report card. But, what do you think we can do about this one B? And she immediately kind of burst into tears, and she said, no matter what I do, it's never good enough for you. And it was that moment I had the realization that I knew I did that to myself, that I was doing that to the people I loved and the people I worked with and everybody else. And it was a moment of clarity for me of like, this is wrong and this has got to change. Now it's been a long journey. I still struggle with that. But it was a moment for me that it was a realization of like, I have got really kind of destructive behavior here that I need to fundamentally change.
But I think that's something that a lot of parents probably struggle with. It's that balance between wanting your children to be their best when you know that they can be. But how do you handle it when you don't see the best at every single moment?
Well, and the reality is that may have been her best, but I was always, the thing I had a personal struggle with is no matter what I did or accomplished, it was never good enough. And it was always, you could have done better.
She was so happy. She said, "Ooh, the B."
So sometimes we have to overlook what we don't think is excellent,
right,
and find something to celebrate in that moment.
Yeah.
All right, Jonathan.
Yeah.
In all of the years that you've had on this planet, the multiple decades of years, like, have there been any defining moments that you have?
Yeah, there's a few, and I think all of them kind of stem from a loss of self-control. And just kind of my reaction to that has been, okay, we got to button that up. Okay, we got to button that up. And the result of it is I
But
try
you're
and
saying
be,
we've got to, you mean you have to control
yeah,
your,
just mentally, just
Yeah.
I need to.
He's having conversations. You know, buddy, we got to. I know what you mean. We got to button that up.
You don't talk to yourself?
Not like that.
I do.
Oh, I do all the time.
Sometimes I do.
I do
Oh
too.
Lord Jesus, help us.
No, but and it always comes down to, okay, I now know what not to do, and it's led to recognizing behaviors in myself that I want to avoid, and I think about a lot of those moments almost daily.
Jonathan, I think that's
it's interesting because I don't picture Jonathan as a guy that would lose his composure.
Yeah, I'm a wild and
This
crazy
is interesting
guy.
'cause
Remember Steve
something
Martin
I
back in
have
the day?
struggled with in the past too.
Okay.
So.
But and then the other thing is, I think it's very self-aware of you, Jonathan, because I think a lot of people live probably double your years that you've lived now before they ever come to that place. So so shout out to you and kudos for that.
Yeah.
For me, I'm with you, Jonathan. I think most of my defining moments have centered around the loss of a loved one. For me, I think it was probably 19. I'm dating myself. 1985 it was. I lost a cousin. We all are familiar with Haithco if you're from the Saginaw Great Lakes Bay region. Haithco Park, before it was actually a park, people, we used to go over there and jump the fence and swim over there. And one time I was supposed to go over with my cousin, and he went ahead of me because I was waiting for another, like, I'll wait for my cousin Reg to come. We'll catch up with you, Marlo. He went over there, and we ended up getting a phone call about 40 minutes later that he drowned over at the lake. And so even, you know, prayers and thoughts to the young man Timmy who passed away. Timmy Favorite. But I also experienced that, and it was a very interesting thing, because you talk about survivors, you know, remorse and guilt, and I think to myself all the time, what if you were there? Like, maybe you could have. What could you have done? But it was one of those moments that challenged me to really begin to think about the risks we take in life. And sometimes when we take risks, we have to pay the ultimate goal. So it was an interesting moment. But how did these things shape you? When you think about what we talked about, how did it shape you, Mark, when you look at you not being able, what did you do differently, and how did that change you?
Well, it started me on a journey of, you know, accepting people for where they were at, accepting myself for where I was at, actually trying to have realistic views or balanced views on who I was and what I have or haven't accomplished, as well as being more supportive. I tended to drive people through, I would guess you might call it negativity then, like, hey, you could do better, you're better, versus more of a coach or mentor type of style.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What about you, Yvonne?
Well, it once I learned what I needed to learn after being so determined, it actually made me have to really embrace all that was coming my way, because when that happened, doors just started opening, and being a Black woman moving into these, different areas and having to deal with, all these different things, I was like, okay, I've got to continue to stay open as I stay determined and embrace, change.
Yes.
Which is the only thing that's constant. So
So I say, we always say that change is constant. I always say that change is necessary. Change is your friend. And change is going to happen. So we want to make sure that we're continually taking in these moments and really realizing them for what they really are. Now, moving as we talk about this, and it's crazy how fast time flies. When we talk about defining moments, I want us to look at this kind of like as a community. What are some things that were defining moments in our communities that have happened? One of the things that I think of that comes off the mind is Rodney King. When I think about Rodney King, and it's really interesting, I want to come back to it, but that was my thought. What would you say yours is, Yvonne?
Well, for our community?
Yeah.
I mean, piggybacking off of that, I mean, of course, when OJ.
Okay. Another one.
Yeah.
And these are going to be controversial. So I think it's interesting. And since this is United Shades of Great Conversations of Race in America, there'll be some interesting thoughts here. Go ahead.
Yeah, mine are, it's interesting because it depends on how you define community. And both of you have defined it as the areas you live in, or I actually would define it more, the things that come to mind are around my job. And so having run businesses, and my natural leadership style is to be like, this is my community. This is my group of my family, my extended family. those are really around things we've accomplished as a business at some point.
You know, it's interesting that you say that, Mark, and I can see where when you talk about community, you look at it in that respect. Because I remember when we first met, we were at your place of employment, and I remember you talking a lot about the culture.
Yeah.
And you were a guy that was big on
culture,
and providing and creating a space where people felt connected, and just the setup of things, the games that were at the space, and the picnics and all of those things. And so I can see how when you think
it becomes
community,
a family to me, basically.
Absolutely.
And so like I would have people that my direct reports or that their reports as well over to my house for group parties, group dinners, because I just felt like if you had that sense of community and trust and oneness, you would, number one, it would make going to work better because you are a team, and you would actually then yield better results.
Mark, you have done something that I never, ever would do to that regard.
I would tell Mark Thomas, Mark, you know what Mark Bassett used to do? Like, well, good for him.
but I think about it, and I'm going to pose a question to you that I want you to think about, and I want us to engage on this question, because when you build that kind, when you expect or you create a culture in your workspace that becomes your community, and you allow yourself to be open, not only in the workplace, but also at home, to these personalities and these people, and you create a family. What is the impact when you have a defining moment like a retirement, not only on how you view yourself in terms of the workplace, but then also the changing of the culture? Being the CEO, you were everybody's everything.
Right.
People were lining up to shake your hand and go out to lunch.
Yep.
What is the ultimate impact on how things operate and how they begin to change your life? That's a question I want you to think about during this quick break. And when we come back, I want to hear your answers. Stick and stay, don't go away. We'll be back with Lord USG, United Shades of Gray.
You're listening to United Shades of Gray on WSGW.
This is Kareem. We're back with more United Shades of Gray. Before we left for the break, Mark was talking about how his family and his work were all intertwined, and he just kumbaya'd everybody into the living room, into the kitchen, something that Black folks are not trying to do. So, Mark,
I actually don't think many people do.
No, I would agree. I would agree.
Most leaders don't have 80 people over to the house.
And I've been there to see this.
Yeah.
So you're right. So Mark, what has been in that, because retirement is a defining moment. How has that impacted you, and what were the changes that were necessary, mandated by that change?
Oh, well, is any change mandated? I mean, for me, you're talking about me personally.
Yes.
Yeah, when I retired.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, again, when you retire from the kind of job I had, where you're the CEO of a company, fairly large company in the greater community, you have a lot of visibility, and when I joke, a lot of times there's truth hidden in the joke. I remember telling Kareem, I literally went one day from being somebody to nobody in one day. And so there is, and you see it with professional athletes. They're in the limelight, and they're not in the limelight anymore, and they struggle with that. So there is the change of being involved in a lot of things at work and being the kind of the go-to person, being involved and recognized in the community, and people that people want to call on to do stuff with, and that kind of tends to go away. And that's where you need to, that's a struggle or a change that you have to manage yourself through. But I went into it eyes wide open with the idea of like, I've been here, I've done all this, I want to stop doing this, I want to spend more time with my family, and I want to see if I can use my skills in a different way, which is why one of the things I really wanted to do with the show, as well as find other ways in the community. I haven't found those yet, but I'm working on them. So.
Well, you got to stay home for a little bit to find it.
Well, that's true. I have to be in town to actually to make a difference. So.
But I think it's interesting. So when you look at that moment in your life, how has it impacted the way you think, the way that you see things, and even those relationships that once existed? They were there. Can I get on your calendar? And now you're trying to get on their calendar.
Yeah.
How has that impacted you?
I mean, I think what's interesting for me is always when you're, again, in my natural leadership style was be heavily engaged with people I thought had a lot of potential, and you invest a lot of time in them. And it's always interesting to me that when you leave, and it wasn't just when I left and retired from HSC, it's when I left any other leadership job and went to someplace else, how few of those people that you went out of your way to help grow and develop and give them opportunities, how few of those people actually work on maintaining that relationship with you. And most of the time I've had to reach back out to them.
Right.
And then once I stop reaching out to them, that they don't reach back out to me. And to me, I think, again, it's I go through phases where I actually think like, well, did they ever really care? Did they just use me? Does no one really like me? And so you go through those cycles of self-doubt.
And this is the thing that I'd say to you, because you got to understand that sometimes life has a way of clearing out spaces for real people who have real meaningful and impact in your life.
You're right. And there's always the few, the exception, that do proactively reach out. And those are the ones that really matter.
That's the value. That's the value. Every farmer plants a ton of seeds, but not every seed produces a crop, right? But Yvonne, it's interesting, and I'm not going to jump across this point that I see happening. When we were talking about defining moments in the community, you and I gave two very controversial moments that existed in time. I said Rodney King, and you referred to the O.J. Simpson trial. I'll talk about Rodney King, but I want you to go ahead. And why was O.J. Simpson's verdict in that trial a defining moment in our community?
Well, I'm dating myself too, because I remember watching that white Jeep. I was like, "Whoo, look at that thing!"
I was watching the NBA Finals, and all of a sudden we had to watch the white Bronco. Man, I was like, "What is this?"
It's one of those things where you knew where you were, you know. But just in the Black community, you hear so many things that people in other communities don't get the privilege of hearing. Just how we,
Let's talk about. You know what? I think it's
so.
In
general, did the Black community think he was guilty or not?
Well,
guilty?
no, I'm gonna. That it's not about guilt or not guilt. That's not.
Sure, there is. Now, whether he gets off or not, that's a different question.
Okay, we'll ask that question. So he asked, did the Black community at large, in your opinion?
I felt like at the time,
most
of us thought he didn't do it. Why y'all trying to pin this on him? He didn't do it. And I think since time has gone on, there have been more Black people that feel like, okay, maybe he might have. And to your point, I don't know that, I don't want to say does it really matter, but
no. Honestly, and I'm gonna just say it because if we're gonna have real conversation, I think we got to be honest about that conversation. In many Black, it didn't matter. It did not matter. And I'll tell you why it didn't matter. Because there have been so many instances that we can recall where, because they were white and they had money,
they got off.
They got off scot-free.
I get it.
And this was the first time, and I'm not celebrating this. I'm joking about this. But this was the first time, really, that we were able to see that. Because we've seen even rich Black men get taken down. Look at Bill Cosby, and we thought Diddy was going to be another. Well, I mean, regardless of what they've done or what the situation.
Plus, we had Johnny Cochran, who was a Black,
which was a Black man, which there was a sense of. Now with Johnny, there was a sense of pride.
Yes,
the line will live on forever. If it don't fit, you must acquit. But when we look at this was the first time that a Black man was able to operate in the court of law, what many Blacks refer to as the criminal system. There is no justice for many Blacks. And so it was the first time that we saw that there was an equal treatment for equal standing. Whether it was right or not was not the celebratory moment. Whether some were probably split over if he did it or if he did not.
OJ said, "I'm not Black, I'm OJ." So he just thought he was,
So he classified himself as other,
right?
And I think for the first time we saw that it really is about sometimes you having the resources and the money to be able to do something about it.
Which is always back to my standard line.
That's today, Mark. That's
all
today.
About money. It's not about race. It's about money. So.
No, and I think that was the first time that we actually saw a leveling of the playing field. Okay, so that was that. Now, for me and Rodney King, being a young man growing up, and white America does not understand the impact of the images that we often talk about when it comes to Black men and the police. They have absolutely no clue. They have no idea, Mark, there is no real understanding of the fact that as a young Black man,
Mhm.
that a part of the conversations that my family, my uncles, my grandparents, fathers have with their sons
Mhm.
is, hey, if you get pulled over
Mhm.
by police
Mhm.
and you the only one around,
Yeah.
you got to be careful. When you go to a certain community, you have to be careful. And I was talking with someone before, and we were talking about how trauma is embedded in your DNA from these experiences. And even today, I was driving with my do-rag on at 11 o'clock at night in the township, and
Wait a minute here. Wait a minute.
I saw police
You have
lights.
a do-rag?
I'll do.
Wait a minute.
Mark, I am unashamedly Black.
Keep the waves.
You got to keep them together, So yes, I had my do-rag on, and then I saw the police lights ahead, and I said, "Let me take my do-rag," because there is
You
embedded
don't
in
want to
this
be
understanding.
profiled.
Yeah,
Because you've told me you've been pulled over for no real reason.
absolutely.
And I'm like, what? Why would anyone pull over Kareem?
Right, why would they pull
my
over Kareem?
vision is like they're doing it because they're in essence profiling.
Okay.
They're looking for a certain look or
Yeah.
a certain age and a certain type, and that's why they're doing it. It's a profile. Like, why would they pull over? Now, if you're driving around with a do-rag, I get no.
Well, I mean, but even minus the
Or a
do-rag,
hoodie.
because
You can do a hoodie
the
thing.
one thing that, and I say this to folks all the time, and it's interesting that we're having this conversation, that you can notice I'm not light-skinned, I can't pass, I don't have light-colored eyes,
Yeah.
I probably
You know what passing means?
yeah, we
Pass
talked
for
about
light
that.
skin?
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
we talked about. I
Okay.
talked to him
'Cause I've
about the
asked him
paper
before,
bag
does that
test
still
and all of that.
exist?
Right,
Does that
right.
kind of bias still exist in the Black community?
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we lie on the far spectrum of that, but there is never an opportunity where I'm going to be able to pass for anything other than Black.
Mhm.
You're not going to think I'm Hispanic.
That's
I'm
right.
not going to be Puerto Rican unless I'm in Puerto Rico.
Right.
I mean, so there is always that fact that my brown skin
Yeah.
says, hey, I'm a Black man,
That's right.
whether I believe it or not. And so when I look at the Rodney King situation and what took place, it screamed to Black America, see, we told you, this is what happens. And what took place even with him, it's because he was on drugs. There's always
There's
a
an
reason
excuse.
It's so annoying to me.
to justify
Yes.
treatment
Right.
that is unbecoming
Mhm.
of a police
Right.
officer. And in that moment, that's why that was defining, because I think that it was one of those moments where all Black men across America say, we told y'all that this happened. And we see that again when it comes to George Floyd.
Yes.
And so those moments really kind of changed how we communicated in our community. And my mom is saying, you're Black and you're beautiful. That's why James Brown had to come out with those
Black and I'm
songs.
proud, baby. I've got that I've got that vinyl album.
You do have it.
Yeah, I
in the
do,
basement.
yeah.
Say, you'd be surprised about the music culturally that
No,
Mark listens
Good
to.
for you. That's,
Yeah,
that's
But
James
say
Brown's
it
my
loud,
guy.
I'm Black and I'm proud.
Mhm.
And that is when I really realized, though, that moment, and then again with George Floyd, I said, you know what, I have to be more intentional, because I know that I have had in my entire life, I've operated in different spaces. I've come from the city, from the community, from the hood. I was born in a project community, but I've been able to be graced to operate in different spaces. But what I've learned is that even being able to operate in those spaces, I want to make sure that I am being represented and respected as a Black man. And so I hold that as something that's very vital. It's a very defining moment in my life.
I have a 13-year-old.
Okay.
And I will say this. He had one of his little friends' mothers that called the police on him when he was 10. It was the craziest thing ever. And that was traumatic for him. What I've told him is, because I hear a lot of Black mothers say, I'm so afraid for my Black son. Well,
Absolutely.
God made my child, so I'm not afraid for him. He made him the way,
he was
perfect.
intended to be, right.
But what I do try and tell him all the time is that make sure you're doing what you're supposed to at all times. Make sure you're doing what is right. And I think that you will be protected. So we have to give them.
Well, Yvonne,
you
now this is when I have folks from the community who don't kind of understand certain things that I think are important or see it the way that I do. I say it that way because you understand.
Yeah.
Because I look at Trayvon Martin, and this is a conversation that we have. He was doing what he was supposed to be doing.
He was. To that point, though, I would have
Tamir
said,
Rice.
Yeah. Tamir was Trayvon was out, and he should have been able. Now, here's the thing: he should have been able to be out with the hoodie and the Skittles at whatever time. It was a little later,
right.
but still. But I would say, but what you should be able to do, and what you're going to do that may protect you, maybe two different things.
So then that lends to what I'm saying. So there are conversations that we have to have where other people can live freely.
That's right.
There are certain fail-safes that we have to put in place to make sure that we get through those things.
Yeah.
All right, now let's shift. We only got about 10 minutes left, But see what I'm talking about?
No.
But I think having these conversations about the things that have really defined moments in our lives and how they've impacted us is a very important conversation. And it's also healthy for us to be able to look back and to reflect.
Mhm.
Now I want to talk about politics. And I think that these answers, I want to do a speed round really quick. A defining moment in our histories, we ain't got to just say politics, in our history, in our American history, that has been important for you.
Oh, I'm trying to stay. Well, yeah, you said we're staying away from politics.
And no, I didn't say we're staying away. I said it doesn't have to be
It
politics.
doesn't have to be
Because I know Mark loves to talk about politics.
that has been. That has been defining, and this was years ago, of course, when President Obama. I mean, I do definitely think about that.
Ditto. I ditto that
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
I was going to say 9/11, really because I flew over the World Trade Center one after it was hit,
Wow.
and was there when it happened.
Mhm.
Was driving over the Whitestone Bridge after the first one fell.
Wait a minute. This is on 9/11?
On 9/11.
You were in the air?
I was in the air coming
Oh
back.
my gosh.
Yeah.
Mark.
Yeah. So I mean, we were coming
After
back.
it was hit.
Yeah. So we were coming back from my mother-in-law's funeral with Mary, myself, and our two daughters. We flew out of Long Beach Airport, red eye. We're coming into Manhattan. And if you ever fly into Manhattan, you go kind of right down the river, you fly right.
Yeah.
And we were as you're flying into Manhattan to the right. So East River, up the East River, one of the trade centers had smoke coming out of it. And we were in a JetBlue, which was a brand new airline at the time, and everybody had televisions at their seats. So I turned on the television, and the news was, oh, there's a fire in the World Trade Center. We landed, collected our luggage, got on the bus to get our rental car, because we were taking a rental car back home to our other car. And the guy on the bus goes, "Oh, a plane hit the World Trade Center." And I'm just thinking, like,
It's an accident.
It's a small little Cessna hit it.
Yeah.
And then he goes, "Oh my God, another plane is hit."
That's not.
And I'm still thinking, like, oh, this is like a news helicopter or something is covering it, got blinded by the smoke. We get in our rental car, and then it all, hell breaks loose. You find out really what happened.
Yeah.
And I remember just saying all bridges in and out of New York are closed, and we had to go over a bridge, and my wife's starting to panic. And I just said, well, let's just go. And if we can't get over the bridge, we'll try to find another way. Anyway, we were able to get over the bridge. As we're on the Whitestone, literally the one had just fallen. So I'll just always remember we had to stop for the girls to use the restroom. And I pulled over, stopped, and I literally started crying.
Yeah.
Because if you had ever been to the World Trade Centers, you knew how massive they were. And I basically said, like, 20,000 people just died. Now, obviously, it was early in the morning, so 20,000 people didn't just die.
Right.
But to me, because of the personal experience, that was a long story, but that's why it means so much to me.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've never heard anybody talk. This is
That's
Yeah.
that is amazing.
firsthand. You literally had firsthand experience.
So Mark, how did I would have been able to get on a plane if that were me?
Yeah.
And I'll share my story, but it pales in comparison. So Mark, how did that impact your life? And have you been able to just kind of let go of that?
Ultimately, I just let go of that. I mean, in the moment, you're trying to call your parents because they're watching the other kids, and there's just, panic and uncertainty and fear. All these other planes are in the sky, but eventually, life moves on.
But all the debris, like the building is falling, the debris.
Yeah, now we were too far away to be hit by it.
Right.
But you're 5 miles away, 10 miles away.
That's
whatever.
nowhere, right?
But it's you're up in the air, so you get a clear view, and it's just the building is gone, and there's just this huge.
I'm sure at some point it really sank in for you, like.
Oh well, no,
goodness,
at that point it did when you see it.
Yeah.
And like I said, when we stopped, I literally just burst out into tears. Like all these people just died.
Yeah.
The funny thing was I was in New York in late June for the NBA draft that year, and then I went back to New York for something that the NBA had going on the week before the incident took place. And we happened to do like a little tour, and I asked the question while we're on the double-decker tour bus, has a building ever flown into the Empire State or the World Trade Center? This is a question that I asked.
Yeah.
And so they're like, oh yeah, actually one flew into the Empire State Building this date, whatever. Didn't think anything of it. So I am working. I'm working in Lansing at this day when this is happening. Everyone is like, "Oh my God, a plane hit. Okay, it's no big deal."
Right.
Then, oh no, another plane. Oh, this is
Wow.
intentional.
Yeah.
We went on lockdown. And so at that moment, I was like, this is not happening.
Right.
I had to fly out on a plane the next week. I got to the airport.
So they had lifted the grounding by then.
Yeah. So by this time, so the following week, I have to go on a plane. Now, my name is Kareem Jabbar. And so when we were at the gate, they came over and they pulled me. They flagged me.
Yep.
And
They
they
were
began.
flagging. Oh,
They
yeah,
asked me questions and, all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And I think I had on a baseball cap and they're calling like, where do you work? All of these questions. And it was the most remarkable thing that I had experienced. And from that point, this is how it impacted me. When I fly on a plane, I have to feel like I have to be near the front of the plane.
Wow.
Because if there is going to be a charge for that
You're
door,
blocking it.
I'm going to be one of the people.
Yeah.
I'm going down fighting.
Yeah.
And it just came down. We don't have to take our shoes off anymore at the
Yeah.
airport now. So
Yeah.
after 20 something years,
Yeah.
because of that.
Because of
Yeah.
that.
I had TSA pre-check, so I never took them off.
I had PSA. But Mark, that is an amazing
That
story.
is.
And Jonathan, go ahead.
Well, you were talking about societally defining moments.
Yeah.
I was going to say 9/11 too, if it came around to me, just because forget the individual impact,
Yeah.
which obviously is huge, but the generational impact,
Yeah.
like for people my age,
Yeah.
it redefined the world.
Yes.
We that is a stopping point that we look at pre 9/11
Yep.
and it is a different world to us than
Yes.
everything
Yeah.
after that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's kind of like 9/11 was that pre 9/11 and then post 9/11.
But
All
you
of
used
the
to be
things.
able to go to the gate with your family,
Yeah.
watch them,
I remember that.
watch
Yeah.
them take off, you wave
Yeah.
at the
Can't
window.
do it anymore.
You can't-
and it changed us
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah.
And so we hadn't had a moment like that until we saw COVID happen and not being able to
Oh.
go and to see loved ones. And
I've been
things like
blocking that out. I didn't remember that one.
Yeah. I think a lot of us are
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I know for me, it was a very defining moment because there were so many people, because in the Black church, I mean, literally
Mhm.
like thousands of leaders,
Yeah.
especially in the Church of God in Christ, so many people died in that COVID, having those meetings and gatherings. And so those are things that really shape us as people.
Yeah.
What has, when you look at the culmination of the defining moments of your life, what has been the lesson that you take away? We got about 30 seconds.
That once again, change is the only thing that's constant, and that they're going to keep being defining moments, and basically how I embrace them, and just community, and being able to lean on community, and realizing that community is so important now. That's taught me that.
Mark,
You own your own future.
that's it.
That's it.
Okay.
Ultimately,
Mm-hmm.
life deals you all sorts of things, good and bad,
Mm-hmm.
and you own how you respond to those and react to those. And I would, my thing is always about constant growth, evolution, and how can I be a better me tomorrow?
Jonathan.
I would have loved to just say, yeah, to Mark, you're in control of where you're going, and it's on you to maintain that control and steer the boat a little bit.
Yeah, I think for me, it is each of these moments have taught me to live life like each day is your last.
Mm-hmm.
Stop hesitating to do, the big thing. Stop waiting for things to change,
Mm-hmm.
and to realize that the time that we have together is precious and valuable, and it could very well be your last. So I want to thank you guys for this conversation and this
Thank you.
thought back, this reflection. And those of you who are watching via social media, those who are going to tune in, take a moment and think about all of the impact of the things that have happened in your life and how they have somehow changed you, if in the least moment of time. I want to give a shout out also to one of my mentees, Tayshawn, who's in the house. Thank you for being here today. Continue to be strong, continue to provide support and encouragement, because we could not make it without you. And to the rest of you that are out there in social media land, God bless you all. And as usual, grace and peace.